Weencast, a Ween podcast with Shane and Rory.
Hey, what's up? This is Shane.
And this is Rory.
And this is Weencast.
Yes, it is.
And we welcome you to a new episode. What's going on, everybody?
Good evening. Welcome. How's everyone doing?
Yeah, what's going on? So, we wanted to take a break from doing our concert review episodes, and we wanted to do something a little different and a little bit fun. And we wanted to talk about our favorite live Ween albums.
Yeah, totes. Dude, I'm excited.
Me too, man.
The live Ween albums.
We've been listening to all of the actual Ween live albums over the last couple of weeks and just kind of getting like refreshed on all of them. And I have to say that, and I think Roy, you can back me up on this, over the years, like, the live Ween albums for me have always kind of taken a back seat. You know, I've always been big on listening to the bootlegs, especially of the shows that I actually attended. And I think in this day and age, like, it's so easy to just get, you know, new shows that have just happened on YouTube or archive.org or whatever. And like the actual Ween live albums have just always sort of been like in the background for me. And I never really gave them a whole lot of time and a whole lot of love.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Absolutely. I've always enjoyed listening to the bootlegs, especially the shows that I've been at, because I feel that connection. I've always felt like a show is more than just the songs being played. It's a whole experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get that when you listen to a bootleg from one night, but, well, to be fair, some of these live albums are from single shows, so that obviously will come into the conversation when we talk about them. But really, it's tough because if it's not from... There's a lot more to a show than just the songs. There's like a coherence to a show that you don't always get when it's just like a live, you know, best of, you know, sort of. Sometimes They can become like a live best of.
Totally, man.
It can be a little bit weird.
Well, we wanted to do this in sort of the same kind of fashion as we did our favorite Ween albums episode, which is we each went through all of them and have picked our favorites. And we can say already that we have two different ones. I have my favorite, and it differs from your favorite, Rory.
Yes. Officially, we came up with them separately. Yeah, so there's 7 total albums, live albums. These are all like the kind of official release ones. And we have the first 5 are just going to be random in no particular order. I actually rolled my 5-sided die, you know, because I'm a D&D nerd. Actually, it's a 10-sided die. It's 2 1-to-5s. But anyway, so I randomly selected the order, and then we're going to finish up with the 2 that we each picked as our own favorite.
So then how did you randomly decide which ones got which numbers?
Well, I did that chronologically. I removed from the order the 2 that made the finalists, as it were. And then assign them 1 through 5 from the order that they were created.
Okay.
But yeah, so we're going to chat about each album for a little bit, you know, talk about high points, weaknesses, things like that. And we'll just kind of go down the list and see how things go.
Yeah, man. Let me just say one more thing real quick, because, you know, I'm a big physical media nerd. You know, I have been my whole life. I have a record collection, I have a vinyl collection, and I have a pretty big Ween CD collection. I'm not a big CD collector, but I do have a decent Ween collection on CD. So I can't help but go back and think about like how they were physically released.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a shame because Rory and I were talking about this before we started the show. Not all of these are equal. Not all of the live Ween albums got the same kind of release. So like Paint the Town Brown, for example, was a wide release because it was released on Elektra.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's a big fucking deal, you know?
Yeah, dude.
Live in Toronto, live at Stubbs, All Request Live, and Ween Satan Live were all released by Choco Dog at like different times within like the Ween career.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the original releases of Live in Toronto and then Live at Stubbs, you know, they're kind of like, I don't want to say forgotten about, because I know there's a ton of fans that love those albums, but like they never really got their due because they were released originally on CD by Choco Dog, by them. And, you know, I don't know how many copies of them were made or whatever, but like it was only like one like printing of them.
Mm-hmm.
And however many, you know, thousands were made or whatever. But it's pretty obvious that like a lot of fans were like shut out of those records because once they were gone, and they were never given like another like print run. Now, in the last, I don't know how many years, you know, 6-7 years or whatever, Live in Toronto was released on LP by them via Schnitzel Records, and then Live at Stubbs was released as a bootleg on vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you could get these like via digital download, but you know, I know there's a lot of people out there like me where it's like, no, you gotta have like the actual thing of it. You gotta have like the CD that you can rip, or you know, whatever, or you buy the LP and it comes with a digital download, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. I mean, some of these originals are just pretty rare commodities, you know?
Right. And sure, nowadays it's like, just fucking YouTube it. Like, I'm sure all the tracks are on YouTube, but like, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, it just doesn't feel the same to me. So it's a shame that not everything was released equally. You know, in my mind, it kind of goes straight from like Paint the Town Brown to Live in Chicago, because those were released by like major record labels and available to just like the general public. Anybody who found out about Ween, it's like it wasn't something that you had to go back and hope that you could find or buy on eBay because it's out of print and blah, blah, blah. You could still get it, you know?
It's a shame that during the era, they were probably less appreciated, I would say, even by myself, because of that scarcity, you know?
Right.
You know, because in that time period, the early 2000s, you couldn't just go on YouTube and get everything you wanted on there.
I mean, I'll say for myself, and again, I'm getting geeky here, but you know what? I have to talk about it because it's from that like time period. I have both of those CDs, Live in Toronto and Live at Stubbs. Live in Toronto is just one single disc on CD, and then Live at Stubbs was actually 3 discs. And I remember, you know, I just made CDRs of those. Mm-hmm. I just made copies of those and put my actual copy of them away, just like stashed them away. It wasn't something where it was just like, yeah, throw it in the car and fucking, you know, jam that shit out.
Yeah, totally.
All day and all night. It's like, well, what if that CD gets fucked up or something? You know, you're not going to be able to find another one.
You got to keep it as your master copy, man. Keep it all under lock and key.
Exactly. You know, so, you know, still to this day, I have those CDs put away in the little plastic sleeves. And, you know, again, I know I'm geeking out, but like, it's just the truth.
Nah, dude, it's for all antiquity, you know?
You won't be able to find it again. And if you do, you're going to pay, you know? So it's a shame that like not all of them again were released the same way and the same widespread kind of releases. So going down a rabbit hole, I know in and of itself, but anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there before we got into each individual one.
Of course.
So
welcome back, my friends, to the zine that never ends. It's Don't Get Too Close to My Fanzine, issue 6. This issue, we've got amazing work. From comics, to art, to articles, to cats, and even an article from your very special heroes, Rory and Shane. You know it. Don't Get Too Close to My Fanzine is over 60 pages of Ween content. You know you love content. Check out theweenzine.com for a pre-order information. Should be coming at the beginning of March. Don't Get Too Close to My Fanzine is the world's only zine about Ween, and it's only available to every single person in the world. Theweenzine.com, babies.
On our random order, Rory, you take it away. You start us off.
All right, well, okay, so the first album we're going to talk about this evening in random order is Live in Chicago.
Okay.
We would be remiss not to first mention that we actually have an episode where we talk about the Live in Chicago album, because our buddy Mike went to one of the shows at the Vic Theater in Chicago where they got songs for this album. Anyway, you guys should check that out because we do go into a lot of detail about it.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, dude, so Live in Chicago, many people may be surprised that this is not one of the finalists at the end of this list.
Right. Well, first and foremost, I mean, I feel like there's no question that it's the best sounding live Ween record because it makes sense. It's the most recent. It's from the most recently recorded material.
Yeah.
So, the technology was there and...
Well, it was very intentional. Like, I mean, this wasn't just like a bootleg, recording. Like, this was...
Right.
This was done,
right.
Real pro, top notch.
Yeah, it's done professionally, and it shows. It definitely, the quality is definitely there. But, for me, I always just kind of felt like it falls a little flat on like the feeling. First and foremost for me, one of the things that jumps out is there's literally like no gaps in between tracks.
Yeah.
And therefore there's really no like banter of them like talking and, stuff like that. I mean, I know there is on the DVD, there's a little bit more of that, but when you're just listening to the CD of it,
totally,
there's really nothing in between the songs. And it just kind of, it's again, it sounds great, but it just sort of like lacks that like feeling of like being there in person and really, getting down with like the fun of it.
Yeah, it's a little bit antiseptic in that sense. There are some, like Touch My Tutors on there. Touch my tutors, smoocher! And there is definitely some ribald, like kind of ridiculous stuff going on. It's not just like for a PG-13 audience, but there definitely is the sense of like, I almost feel like everyone in the band's like everyone's on their best behavior, they're trying to do like 3 nights at the Vic and just be real pros for each song, just be real pros at this. And it kind of shows. I mean, when you listen to them, I feel like they're all... this is like a positive and a negative all at the same time, is that it's almost like it's not really a best of, but each song, each version of the songs on Live in Chicago aren't like the quote-unquote like greatest live performance of that song. Like the Voodoo Lady that's on Live in Chicago, I could think of a couple versions that I've listened to myself that I would say are better than that version. But they're all like very quintessential versions. They're like the standard, I guess I would say, is like Live in Chicago, you get like the standard live version of each of those songs.
Right. Yeah, man.
And it is a wide range. Notably, it's ironic. It actually doesn't have anything from Golden Country Greats. And besides that, it is wide-ranging with stuff coming from all the studio albums.
Right. Well, and the other thing about it is it's a little heavy on the Quebec stuff because that was the CD that was being sort of promoted at that time.
Yeah, totally.
And that's ultimately like why it was made, which is fine. I'm not I'm not complaining about that, but it's sort of like, it has that like stamp on it of like, this is obviously from like the Quebec era. You know what I mean?
Totally, you're right. It's like specific to like, in conjunction with the album release, we're also going to work on this, live performance.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to say that like when we recorded that episode with Mike, the first and foremost thing that I sort of started my conclusion with was, I'm damn glad that they made it. Because it does sound really good. And I mean, the DVD is pretty fucking cool. I mean, to have an actual video, a professionally made live Ween video like that. I mean, it's pretty sweet.
It's a great album to share with someone who doesn't really know Ween.
True that.
And you can put it on a TV, like at a party or, just hanging out at your house, like throw it on the DVD, And it's a good cross representation of Ween, and they're good versions of the songs that, for better or for worse, don't overdo the jamming. They don't overdo that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone's being introduced to Ween, Live in Chicago is a great place to start.
Yeah, totally, man.
So and it's interesting. Some of the qualities of this album are all like double-edged swords. They all can be like seen in a good light, and they all can be seen in a negative light. And I guess that ultimately is why this wasn't my favorite, because it was just a little bit more mixed results for me.
Yeah, man. Okay, so should we go to the next one?
Sure. All right. Well, the next one in random order is At the Cat's Cradle, 1992.
Okay.
Released in 2008. The concert was from 1992. Make sure that's clear. At the Cat's Cradle. If you're looking for old school Ween, this is motherfucking old school Ween.
This is almost as old as you can get. Yeah.
Good job, Kirk.
I said,
Take it, man.
get up in the morning, smoke is blue, baby. Then I swim through the rivers of Babylon, and climb the mountains of Zion. Mango woman.
Again, the quality is there, especially for something that's that old. It does sound very good. They've cleaned it up and everything. It's one of the examples of this is a complete night, because if you look at this show on Brown Bass, it is everything is there.
Yeah.
Everything that's on that CD is included, or everything that was played that night is included on that CD, I should say.
It's a shorter length concert, albeit, but it is all from one night.
Right.
This ain't like a classic 2.5 to 3.5 hour long show.
Right. This is when they were still just doing like an hour, or, I guess maybe a little bit over an hour.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit more than an hour, but...
when you read the liner notes of this, I think Diener even says in there that by the time like this came around, they were kind of starting to get a little tired of just like the 2-man and the dat deck like setup. And like when you listen to the show, you can tell because Diener is just like, I mean, he's self-deprecating and it's funny and it's cool and it's fun, but like he's basically just saying like, you know, we know this is terrible, just bear with us, try to have fun. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like he's just shitting on themselves like the whole time.
One of the overriding feelings I get, it kind of relates to that lack of seriousness, you know, and that sense of like, oh man, this sucks, like, and kind of being worn out from it. You know, I get the feeling when I listen to it that Ween has so much more, they have so much more to offer, and that they'll have so much more to offer in the future.
Right.
Like I listen to this and I just think, man, there's potential here, but this isn't like I would never put this up as like a pinnacle of like, it's ironic how a lot of people want to hold on to that old school Ween, like there's something pure gold in there. And it is cool, and I'm not saying anything's wrong about it, and it's a different era of Ween and a different part of their evolution in maturity and songwriting and band playing and everything. But if I'm going to compare this performance with something from like the pinnacle of the 5-piece band from like the early 2000s, I mean, this doesn't come close.
Right. There's a couple of things on it that really sort of like jump out at me when I look at the track list, and, you know, like we said, we were just listening to these, kind of getting refreshed on them. So this is from 1992, and one of the last songs that's on the CD is Buckingham Green. So that's pretty cool, just to show you like how old that song actually is, even though it was a Mollusk song.
Totally.
And sort of became one of the biggest, you know, kind of like anthems of the band. You know,
yeah,
that's pretty neat that it does like sort of originate from this time period.
All right. Child without an eye made a mother cry. Why ask why? She kept a child clean on Buckingham Green.
So that really jumps out when you're listening to this.
Absolutely. Scene. It's a good reminder that they pull music from their past, you know, like not just because the album that it's on was released, you know, in 97 or 98.
Yeah, I think 97.
It doesn't mean that the song was just written right then, you know?
Right.
Dude, there are some good, there's a, I think it's Don't Get Too Close to My Fantasy, I want to say, is a really different version of the song.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like some cool stuff on it, and it's a cool, like, you know, time capsule from that just like 2-man era. But it's, you know, it's like you were saying, you can't really like compare it to one of the other ones and say it's like it's better than, you know, something where the whole band is there.
Yeah, dude. I mean, yeah, it's, to me, it's like a historical artifact. It's really cool to listen to. And then I can appreciate the evolution of Ween, you know, from their formative era to like what they would become. You know, because 1992 is, they really are on the precipice of, you know, getting Pure Guava out there and expanding themselves, you know, to adding, you know, Claude and Andrew Weiss, and then eventually the 5-piece band, you know, with Dave and Glenn. So that's, to me, is what this is really all about, you know. So I could never put this as my favorite, but I respect anyone that does. I mean, I don't mean to shit on the earlier stuff by any means.
Right. Okay, so should we go to the next one?
Yeah. Speaking of old school, the next one in random order is from 2016's release of Ween Satan Live.
Okay.
And to be clear, the album was recorded in 2001. From a show, right. It's all one show at John and Peter's.
Right.
And if I have it correct, it's from September 14th, 2001. And this is during the highly publicized by us Glenn hiatus. And you've got also Andrew Weiss performing on here, and no Glenn. But it's from it's from a John and Peters show, September 14th, 2001.
You know, it's really crazy. Just first and foremost, you know, looking at the date, I can't believe that they actually went on with this show, being that it was that close to September 11th. I think that the re-release of God, Ween Satan that came out, the 25th anniversary edition, I think that actually was released on September 11th, if I'm not mistaken. Which obviously, that stuff is well in the works ahead of time. But I remember the time period and like shit just being canceled and everything. The whole sort of country was just in shock, and everything was getting pushed back. And okay, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to have this. We're not going to have that. So the fact that they actually played that show that close to September 11th is fucking nuts.
That's a good point, dude. I wonder if a little bit it's like everything was shut down, so they're like, fuck it, let's just go to John and Peters because they're like right down the street. You know what I mean? Like almost like an unplanned event.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think? Like maybe they had things planned to do with God, Ween Satan release, but maybe it ended up being like, well, fuck it, we can't, all that shit's shut down, but let's just go to John and Peters and do it. I don't know. That's a really good point. That it's so close to 9/11.
I think it was kind of in the works. I do sort of remember because it was on the website as you couldn't bring your taping gear, which that was a
true.
That was a big deal. It was like, obviously they wanted to do something with the record, they were going to record it themselves and, eventually do something with it. Cause I know that, that was sort of like you can't bring your gear, not that I ever took gear, but at the time, I mean, I'm sure I would have listened to it if someone had a recording of it right then,
Yeah, totally. And this is also back, they kind of had John and Peters on a regular rotation at this point in Weendom.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that they would be doing it there. That makes sense. This is really cool because, again, if you love old school Ween, this is fucking God, Ween Satan as a show, I mean, this is like your wet dream, as it were.
It's a really cool and unique piece because obviously it's a unique show. They are they're performing the entire album of God, Ween Satan, and that's long before that was like a thing. Okay, we're gonna go out and we're gonna play the whole album of this.
Yeah.
That's really something that's only sort of like popped up within the last 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say that it feels a little like rushed. It feels a little bit sort of like forced. Like you have like those songs where they play them on a regular basis, so they already like have those down, and it's just kind of like, let's just get through it. Let's just, bam, 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 like, and I love God, Ween Satan. I'm not trying to say anything negative about those songs, but when you listen to this whole thing from start to finish, it just feels like they're just trying to bang it out.
You lose the impact of, having You Fucked Up kind of be like a one-off during a show where you get all that energy and anger and everything, like, boom, that punk rock, song. You lose a little bit of that impact when the whole show is the whole album. Like the songs don't punch as hard.
That's a great point because you're absolutely right. When you're listening to just like a random show, they can pretty much break out anything from God, Ween Satan to like wake your ass up. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And like punch you in the fucking face. And when it's just like a whole night of that, it kind of loses a little bit of that punch.
Yeah, and I think, I feel like, to what you were saying, is that maybe rubbed off on the band a little bit.
Right.
But
right.
Still very cool that even though Glenn, again, was on hiatus, you still got Andrew Weiss sitting in, which undoubtedly was cool because, he was involved with Ween from the early days. So that would have been cool. That I'm sure that was a great, like, Andrew was able to be like, oh yeah, man, like old times, kind of like slide in,
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some fun to this too. When you're listening to the LMLYP, it's not like the whole crazy long version.
You kiss your enemies like you know you should, and then you shake your body like a honey pony would. You shake your body like a honey pony would, and now run and tell your mama about that. Let me lick your booty sound. Let me lick your...
But it's still kind of long. It's still like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And just like other fun shit. Nicole, which is just like the most ridiculous track. And that's kind of like jammed out in this one. And just like those sort of oddballs that, you don't hear like a lot. Some of the Ween Satan tunes are still played on like a regular basis. You mentioned You Fucked Up, Nan.
Tick.
Yeah, right. Stuff like that. So you have those sort of like oddballs that never really like see the light of day, but they're on this fucking show because they did the whole album, There is still some fun shit in it, but it just kind of like, it feels like they're just like, let's just fucking bang this fucker out and, nail it home.
Yeah, totally. They definitely weren't approaching it like, because there's a lot of songs on Ween Satan. If you wanted to jam out every song, you could have a couple hour long like concert,
right?
But they clearly didn't plan it that way. They just wanted to make it more like the album,
right? I hate to be hard on it because you're right. It's like if they were just gonna fuck around with like everything, it would be like hours and hours long, So you have to sort of tighten it up here and there,
Well, but you could have made that choice. You could have said, you know what, we're gonna make this a 3 hour long show because we're gonna freaking turn all these songs into jams. I'm not saying that's the right move. I'm saying it's just a possibility.
Right.
But I do feel like it becomes less of a, it's a live show, but it's really more like a live recording than a show. I mean, it's done at a John and Peter's, so that's not a very fair, I guess that's more true when we talk about all requests live. But, this is like in front of a live studio audience, like Seinfeld, is being recorded in front of a live studio audience, like that's what this is versus being like purely like a live show, if that makes sense.
Totally, man. I know exactly what you're saying.
I'm not trying to detract from it. I'm just trying to teasing out the nuance, Shane. I'm just teasing it out. But no, you're right. And I'm not trying to say it's like, sucks or anything. It's really awesome. It's really great. And, it's not something you get like every day, obviously, them just being like, okay, guys, we're going to, now you're right. Nowadays, they've done more of that. Like, didn't they do the mollusk at a festival or something? And they obviously did
and
the
chocolate
Golden
and
Country
cheese
Greats down in Nashville. So they've been doing a little bit more of that.
Yeah, and not just them, but like, Roger Waters does, Dark Side of the Moon. And,
well, that was always a Pink
Wall,
Floyd thing,
like,
though, to be fair.
Well,
like,
right.
That was a thing that they did like back in the day. But yeah, dude, that was one of my all-time favorite concerts. And it wasn't Ween. Was Roger Waters' The Wall.
Right.
Man, was that like 10 years ago or something? Shoot.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of other bands that have sort of like picked up on that, that like idea, like we saw U2 do the entire Joshua Tree album and then like the rest of their show in 2017. You know what I mean? Like it was just something that, I'd say from like the mid 2000s like really started to
Yeah.
like pick up steam, you know.
Totally.
So
Well, I hope you guys got home after the U2 concert. If the streets didn't have any names, it's hard to find your way home. You know, it's also interesting, before we move on from God, Ween Satan, I think I'd also just add, you know, this is also part of, even though it was released in 2016, it's all part of this very busy, hectic several years in the Ween world. I mean, this is recorded in 2001, and, you know, yes, Glenn's gone at the time, but man, they've been touring a lot. White Pepper was just the year before. They toured their butts off in the years leading up to White Pepper, with the Mollusk and everything, and as the 5-piece band. So
it's true.
So this is really like a busy time period for Ween, you know, especially like they're doing a lot of live shows, but they're also like recording a lot of things and releasing a lot of stuff. You know, again, this won't be released for, you know, 15 years later, which is kind of ironic. It's like they knew they were recording it. Why didn't they release it sooner? But there's other things like around this time period, like that we'll get to, but Live at Stubbs was from 2000. All Requests Live is from 2003, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so it's a pretty busy time.
It's true. Should we go to the next one?
Yeah. All right, so here's another one that's not a finalist. The random roll. It brings us to Painting the Town Brown, Ween Live, 1990 to 1998.
Oh boy, that might be controversial.
I do want to give it a little guitar solo. You know, this one almost got what I decided not to do it, but I'll do it anyway. So honorable mention for me. You know, and actually I went into this whole process, Shane, thinking, I think I even said this to you, that oh man, it's going to be hard for any of the live albums to beat Paint the Town Brown in my mind.
Right.
But by the end of it, listening to it all, considering everything, I have to say that I couldn't make this a finalist. It is a fantastic live album, though.
You know, I think the best thing about Painting the Town Brown is just the fact, I had mentioned it when we were doing sort of our little introduction there, that this was something that was released on Elektra. So just the fucking balls that it took to release this on like a major label. I mean, it's
a 25-minute Poop Ship Destroyer, which is almost the entirety of disc 2.
Dude, a 2-disc live set, and the second disc only has 3 tracks. And just like you just said, Poop Ship and Vallejo.
Yeah, dude, that's wild.
I mean, are you fucking kidding me? You know? I mean, I remember when this came out, and I mean, fuck, dude, we just loved it. I mean, I still do love it.
We ate it up.
I still do love it. And also, just the track listing of disc 1 and having a couple of those sort of like oddballs, that was the first time they were released, really, that they had like seen the light of day for a lot of people, you know, myself included. Mountain Dew and Ode to Renee.
If you hush up your mind, what's beautiful, then they'll fill up your jug with that good old Mountain Dew.
Push you out, no, I put you
was like, what the fuck songs are these? You know what I mean? And I mean, it's just fucking nuts.
Yeah, dude, it's
fucking
wild.
crazy.
And the title of it really does do it justice. Like, they're painting the town brown, dude.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot about this that I love. You know, one of the things is the story of how back in the day we used to go hang out from time to time at the and shoot if I'm remembering the name of the bar, but
The Northeast Tap Room.
yes. So anyway, so we used to from time to time hang out at the Northeast Tap Room, and they, in their infinite wisdom, had Paint the Town Brown on the jukebox. So we would often, every time we were there, we would take over the jukebox. That was one of our fun things. We would take over the jukebox and, like, you know, it was like having beers and drinking, listening to music on the jukebox. And we would always like set it up so that Poop Ship Destroyer came on, and then we like would leave. And, you know, knowing that people around us would be dealing with this Poop Ship song for the next like 20 minutes as we were like gone.
Well, I do remember one night specifically where, you know, we probably picked that one as like our last pick, but we were still there. So I think I had hit him up with the Poop Ship as, you know, our last song selection.
Yeah.
And then as like that was in like the middle of it, going back up to the jukebox, I think we might have been in like the back room. This is a small, you know, little bar, but it had two like rooms. It had like two sections to it.
Mm-hmm.
And going back into like the front room where the jukebox was, and there's a couple of people sitting right next to the jukebox, and an, you know, older gentleman saw me go back up to it and start, you know, putting coins in or whatever, and just was like, yeah, play some fucking music next time. And me having to like, you know, explain to him just like, hey dude, look, it was a jam out. Like, if that's what happened to that song in that moment when those guys are playing it, then that's what happened. You know? And that's still how I feel about Poop Ship Destroyer on fucking Paint the Town Brown. You know?
Yeah, dude, and it's there. It's on there in disc 2. If that's in your jukebox, then be forewarned.
Yeah. It's not. It wasn't our selection to put that disc in that jukebox, and this is before the days of like the digital jukebox. Okay, this was like old school. Those CDs were in that jukebox. It's fucking fair game.
Yeah, dude. No, it was fun, and the Northeast Tap Room used to. I don't know what I haven't been there in forever, but it used to be a pretty cool little, kind of almost like a hippie, like, you know, hole in the wall kind of bar.
Oh yeah,
just like. Unsuspectingly just sitting there in like Northeast Reading.
Yeah, the dude's name was Pete, who ran the place, and he was just always really cool to us. And, you know, we didn't get there a whole lot because we were from, you know, Ole, but close enough. You know what I mean? It was like, well, there's a lot of other places we can get to that are closer, but...
Well, we gravitated to that because it was kind of like the... for us, it was like the cool bar. It was a bar that had Ween on the jukebox in the Reading area.
Yeah, I mean, right.
That was going to be like a place that we were going to check out.
Totally, man.
So, you know, things about Painting the Town Brown that I would say, you know, again, you know, it's like a double-edged sword if you're talking about like if it's a good or a bad thing. But I do love that. First off, it's from such a wide range of years. So there's the Ween is so different in 1990 than the band is in 1998. And so you get like all a cross section of all different types, permutations of the band, which is pretty cool. And you really get to see the evolution of them, you know, again, just like kind of like the Cat's Cradle live show, except this is little pieces from 8 different years, you know, so that's pretty cool. But it's also a little bit of, in hindsight, like some of these are like very formative versions of these songs ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not like, oh, these are like the best of, you know, I wouldn't like share this with anyone to be like, this is the best of Ween, you know, it gives you a great cross section from many years when over a period of time that a lot of changes were happening in the band.
Right. It has a lot of the, what I would consider to be sort of like that forgotten like Ween era, like, you know, or you might call it like the Andrew Weiss era, because, you know, you have like, you know, Jeaner and Diener with the Dat Deck, and then there's the like 4-piece band era where it's, you know, the two of them, Andrew Weiss and Claude on drums. Mm-hmm. And to me, I don't know exactly what the years are off the top of my head. I guess it would be like 93 to 97 or something like that. I don't know exactly, but like that sort of seems to be like the forgotten era of the band. Before they got Glenn and before Dave was on bass. You know what I mean? To become the 5-piece band that we know like today. So there's a few good examples of jams from like that time period on Painting the Town Brown. Poop Ship Destroyer and Vallejo are both from that 94, 95 era. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So it's got that sort of like, I hate to keep repeating it, but it's like that sort of like lost, time period in there. Some of those are, it's like they're not the real old stuff from when it's the two of them, and it's not like the later stuff where like, every show is like recorded.
No, totally. You're right on hitting the nail right on the head. That's from an era that not every show was recorded. And sometimes you only all your evidence from one show might be someone's 10-minute long sort of pocket camcorder recording of it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, or like, I know I had a bunch of like VHS tape shows.
Yeah.
Where it was not the whole show. It was not the whole show. You can find a bunch of examples of that on fucking YouTube too.
Yeah. Dude.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, we got everything except the last like 20 minutes or whatever. It's like, by the time we started seeing them regularly, it was like there was really no question that you would be able to find like the complete show, at least an audio recording of it, within like a couple of weeks after it being played.
Totally.
So like there's a lot of cool examples on this from that like forgotten period. And again, just like the track listing of it, I mean, that took fucking balls, dude. I mean, Mushroom Festival, again, Ode to Renee, I can't put my finger on it, which was one of the, when they started doing like the longer rendition of that song, which is really cool. Awesome Sounds. I Saw Jeaner Cried in His Sleep.
And nothing from the Mollusk.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And there's not much from there's not much from Golden Country Greats. You got Japanese Cowboy, Mr. Richard Smoker, and not all that much from Chocolate and Cheese.
Yeah, it has kind of more of like a varied set list, track selection. I think that's my favorite part about it, is just the randomness of it, the random like tracks.
Oh, totally. It's very random. A lot from like overseas shows. A lot from, there's a whole bunch from various shows from overseas tours, which is kind of funny. There's a few that come from a show at the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium in 1996. I guess those would be that's the Golden Country Greats tour. So I guess that makes sense when those are the Golden Country Greats songs.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a good live album, and it's a great sort of to be able to look back and appreciate that lost era and like the evolution of Ween. But again, I can't say it's the best because, the versions of the songs, a lot of them are just more formative, and and everyone's free to their own opinion, but the 5-piece band of Ween, that is like live Ween. I mean, like you think about how the band evolved over the years, like that's where the band made its fullest realization of its own identity, its own idiom. So I don't know, and that's in my opinion. And so I look at this earlier stuff and I say, this is great, but this is all really just showing us how they went from two dudes, hanging out in New Hope to eventually this like rock and roll band.
Yeah, dude. So we have one more left.
Yes, indeed. Oh man.
Before we start getting into our picks, so we have one more that didn't make our top 2 or our 2 favorites.
Yeah, if anyone out there is keeping track, then you, I guess, know which 3 are left. But just so you know, we can kind of do this like a beauty pageant. So the 3 remaining are All Request Live, Live in Toronto, and Live at Stubbs. The next one is not a finalist, And we're going to hit back up. Again, this might be controversial to some people.
That concludes part 1 of our favorite Ween live albums. Please look forward to part 2 coming soon. And in the meantime, hit us up on Facebook, Patreon, or just send us an email. We'd love to hear your comments on what your favorite live album is or anything you want to contribute. Weencastpodcast@gmail.com. Weencast Podcast on Twitter. Hit us up with just about anything. Thank you so much. Peace, we out.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Your old pal here, August Forming, aka Fred Moore. Just wanted to let you know about a new show I am co-hosting with my old friend Pitts Quattrone called Birds, Bands, and Baloney. We talk a little bit about the Philadelphia Eagles, we talk a lot about bands, and we talk a whole lot of baloney. Our pilot episode just premiered on 3/7/21. Please check it out at my YouTube page at Freddington1. That's the number 1, not the word. Also remember, Bill and Fred's Excellent Adventure every Sunday at 3 p.m. on the same YouTube channel and Facebook Live. And now, back to Shane and Rory and Weencast. I know, I love them too.